Hello, hello, hello. It's me, Dr. Catherine Toomer, and it's Dr. Toomer Talks on Tuesday. I'm here alone again. You get a treat. I hope you think it's a treat. Anyway, again, I'm Dr. Catherine Toomer. For those of you tuning in for the first time, if you're here, say hello. Thank you for being here. I'm sorry there's been a bit of confusion for the last couple of Tuesdays, but I am here and back. So, for those of you who are just joining in, again, say hello. If you're tuning in later, then please just push in a hashtag replay. I'm Dr. Catherine Toomer, family medicine and community health physician, and founder and CEO of Health, Wellness, and Weight Loss Centers, and newly founded Total Weight Health Institute, which does has three prongs. One is to help people maximize their health and wellness through weight loss. The other is to teach clinicians or other practitioners how to provide complete and compassionate weight health to their patients. And the third, in the not so distant future, will be to help create organization or help organizations provide complete and comprehensive weight health care for their patients. But that's a little down the road. So right now. So, hi, Chris. I'm so sorry about last week. I realized actually that when I was broadcasting, I didn't put it into YouTube. It was only on Facebook. So I do apologize for that. And the week before, I think I did it 2 weeks in a row. I really apologize because you have been here each and every time. And I do really, truly appreciate it. And that will never happen again. So, what I wanted to talk about today is actually a little bit more serious. And the reason is so much has been coming up with people being shamed. Anyone who knows me knows that I am very much against shaming of people who are overweight, who have obesity, particularly those who are treating their obesity and then being shamed for that. It's one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't situations. But one of the things I've also noticed, though, is that even people who are being treated, who are taking control of their health, simply don't have the language and sometimes don't feel empowered to defend themselves. And mainly it's because we know in this society, in many of Western society, thinness is a currency. And there is thin privilege. For anyone who doesn't believe that, I can tell you, as someone who has been obese, who now is not, I know I felt the difference. I see the difference, and it's very, very obvious. And but one of the things that is happening in that thin privilege is that people who've never, ever, ever had to struggle with their weight health are condemning and judging those of us who have and have a lot of opinions about what should and shouldn't happen. And so here's a couple of myths I'm just going to bust right out right now. So, if you took two people who eat the exact same thing, what happens to that food in their body is very different. And what happens, and the reason it's different, is because of their genetics. For some reason, when someone who's thin, who eats badly, who never gains a pound, we always say, "Ooh, it's their genetics." But when it's someone who does eat food and does gain weight, we don't say the same thing. Why is that? When people treat their diseases, when people treat their diagnoses with the medication that works for them, that controls their diagnosis, we're like, wow, good for you. You're taking your medicine, you're being compliant. But when that diagnosis is obesity, for some reason, we have a problem with it. Why is that? When something is difficult and we figure out a way of making it easy, we say it's progress, we say it is good. So, why is it that when we find a way that helps people control their appetite, control their weight gain, control their cravings, control their attitudes about food and their behaviors around food, we suddenly say it's cheating? But those same people drive their car to the grocery store instead of walk, and they use things to carry things. They use all these tools to benefit themselves and all these tools to make things easier. But for some reason, when it's weight loss, it's a problem. Why is that? Well, we know why it is. It's because of bias and prejudice. It's because of fat phobia. And sadly, what's happened is that many of us who've been overweight for many, many years have internalized that phobia, have internalized that shame, have internalized other people's attitudes about who we are and what we are. And so, even as we are getting better, even as we're doing something, it's so easy for us to get discouraged. It's so easy for us to feel shame because we've been shamed for so long for what we've done because we've never been told the truth. The truth is, there is a genetic component to why we are overweight and why we have obesity. That genetic component changes our hormonal environment that also changes what our brain does with its cues, what our brain does with messages, what food does in our body, whether it becomes fuel or whether it becomes fat. It changes how we utilize the hormones that our body produces. It changes how much of that hormone is made. And so often what happens is that our body overshoots with insulin. Insulin is what's used in our bodies to help metabolize carbohydrates, break it down, and help with the metabolism and the use of glucose. But when the insulin is at its normal level, that food goes to making fuel. Our muscles have it. So when we exercise, it all works nicely and we get the results we want. But when the insulin is too high, that food gets shifted to fuel, and suddenly our muscles have to fight for that glucose in order to get energy. And so instead of getting energy, that exercise isn't as efficient, but our fat cells suddenly become very efficient at growing. And it's all hormonal. And every person's hormonal makeup is based on their genetics. But not only does it make our body more efficient at making fat, it also acts on the pleasure centers of our brain. So we get different cues when we eat. It creates cravings. Just like any addiction of any kind, you get a response when you do something that's pleasurable to you. For some people, eating food does not do that. And for some of us, it does. And so what happens is that we start craving. Just like someone craves a drug, food can be that drug. But it's central, it's in the brain. And it's because of how the brain reacts when that hormonal, genetic, whatever it is, process kicks in. And so, but what we've been telling people is they have no discipline. You have no willpower. You have no idea. You know, this is your fault. This is why you're overweight. This is why you have obesity. This is why you're diabetic. But the genetic environment that creates these things are on the same continuum as diabetes. And that's why the new diabetes medications work so well to help, and not with weight loss. They don't treat weight loss. What they do is they treat the cause of weight gain. And the causes of weight gain are genetically predisposed, and what the genetic predisposition does is changes how our body reacts hormonally to food, to emotions, to everything. And so, yes, we've been told if we're fat, it's our fault. Well, it's our hormones' fault. It might be our genes' fault, but guess what? We now have a tool to fight it, and there's no reason someone shouldn't. So this is my test for you. This is my request that if you have a problem with someone treating their disease, and that disease is obesity, then please check your bias, check your prejudice, and learn something, read something, learn that this is hormonal, and that's why these medications work. They do not work unless there is an underlying diagnosis. People are like, oh, it drops your appetite. Yes, it does drop your appetite because your appetite's driven here. It's in your brain, it's in the pleasure center. So when that glucose dysregulation is corrected in your brain, it stops driving you to eat. It stops your brain from seeking its drug. So please, and of course, many of us who've been overweight, many of us who have had to struggle realize this. And we often don't know because nobody's ever told us. Well, I'm telling you now. The reason that GLP-1 receptor agonists work is because there's an underlying hormonal issue. The reason that people have such a problem with its being used is because of their own prejudice or bias. It is not your fault, and you should not feel any shame whatsoever for being able to do something about it. And for anyone who has a problem with using a tool because they say it's too easy, then stop using all tools that you have. Stop taking hot water showers. Stop cooking your food. Stop driving your car. Stop washing your clothes in a washing machine, because those are all tools that make life easier. And if you truly want to understand why these medications work, ask me. If you want to learn how they work because you yourself are a practitioner and you'd like to use them with your patients, because I know they're asking you for help, then ask me. If you are a patient yourself and you can't get someone to help because people around you keep saying, I don't understand it, I don't agree with it, I don't think obesity is a disease, ask me. I can help you. Because really, it is almost to the point of malpractice to have patients who need our help and we simply are not giving it. And anyone who doesn't believe that obesity is a disease needs to study their molecular biology, their microbiology, their biochemistry, and their endocrinology to understand what it is and how fat grows and how fat is developed in the body and why it does more efficiently for some people and not as efficiently for others. So again, I'm Dr. Catherine Toomer. I want to thank you, Chris. Thank you, Cynthia. You always show up. But I just want to I had to get on my soapbox because I have spent this week, countering a lot of arguments around people who truly just don't understand what it means and who should understand because they're in the health community. And if you yourself are taking medication and you just don't understand it yourself, that's okay, because many of us, most people taking their medication couldn't tell you the biochemistry behind how it works. So don't feel bad if you don't either. But just know there is help out there. There'll be more health out there as we all learn more and we all share, and we just simply stop shaming those who are trying to improve their health in the best way they can with all the tools at their disposal. So this is Dr. Catherine Toomer stepping off my soapbox. And if you have any questions, you can put them in the comments. If you read this later, you can put hashtag replay. And again, like I mentioned, I have a course for physicians. I have a course for patients. I have a course for anyone who is a practitioner who wants to learn how to provide complete and compassionate weight health care for the people that they take care of and that I very hope they care about. All right. Good night. Have a good evening. And I'll see you next Tuesday at Dr. Toomer Talks on Tuesday.